All right, let's call this meeting to order. Calling the meeting to order. Do a pledge of allegiance, guys. Jeremy, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Please stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have an invocation by Pastor Keith Capizzi of Club Zion.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you. We bless you for the privilege, the honor to come before you and seek your wisdom and direction, Lord. We seek your providence. We seek your sovereignty, Lord, to govern over this committee. We pray for all things be done decently in order. Pray for all our commissioners, Lord, that they would have good judgment and clarity of mind, that the wisdom they use would be for the better or the good of our community, Lord God. I pray that the issues on the table tonight would be one that we all be respectful to one another, Lord. So we give this time to you, and we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
City Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Jackson.
He is here.
Here. Okay, I got it. All right, Commissioner Jackson's here. Commissioner Hutcherson.
Here.
Commissioner Tumulty.
Here.
Vice Mayor Williams. Mayor Capizzi.
Here.
Do you want to pour?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's on the phone.
Okay.
He told me he may have to step out for a conversation.
All right, no problem. Somebody want to do a...
We can't hear you.
Yeah, the mics aren't on. You can turn the mics up.
Hello?
IT.
We get a approval of the consent agenda?
I want to pull G3 on Commissioner Jackson's behalf, just for further discussion. Other than that, I move to approve the consent agenda with G3 pulled for discussion.
Excuse me, you say you want to pull G3?
Golf 3.
For an acknowledgement discussion.
All right. I agree.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Any public comments about items that are not on the agenda? And if you do want to speak tonight, I'm going to be a little bit different. Usually I'll let you just come up and speak without having to put a card in prior, but because we have so many people, I ask if you do want to speak tonight, please, I'm only going to be taking cards. So if you want to speak on an item, make sure you get that card in before we start that. John Dillon.
John Dole in Cocoa Beach. As you well know, I've been watching the beach access construction. I communicated back to the Cape Design. The concern is the height of the poles been in the ground. The design requires 10 feet. They've got RFI came out, so they're not getting it that far down in the ground. That may be fine. My point is, once they cut it about 4 feet from the ground level, we've got poles between 7 to 14.5 feet above ground level now. When they cut those off, the city purchased those poles. So you make sure that contractor provide those cut-off poles back to the city, since the city bought it, so take it back to their construction site and reuse it for themselves. You make sure the city gets them transferred back to the city. That's my main concern. We pay for it. Make sure we get that top part off.
Thank you. Janet Scott.
Good evening, everyone. Today, I wanted to say that today is my day to brag. It's just 1 month from the swearing in of the great President Donald J. Trump. An incredible whirlwind of a month it has been. Trump's chief enforcer of executive orders, Elon Musk, is doing what has eluded former presidents for 4 decades that we know of. President's promised to shrink the government, the federal government, and investigate the spending of our hard-earned money, and it's always being thwarted by bureaucrats. So here's DOGE, Department of Government Enforcement. It's long overdue reveal and will reveal the fraud, waste, and abuse. It's been wonderful to see what's on that list of trillions, $3 trillion, just amazing. So Elon Musk, though, what a guy. He's eminently qualified to accomplish what he has set out to do for the love of technology and for the love of the great United States of America. His SpaceX now launches more than one time a week sometimes. We get to see it all, aren't we lucky? It's difficult for people of Brevard County to fathom how any astronauts would be left in space by their government because of politics. He's going to send a SpaceX rocket up to pick up the 2 stranded astronauts. That'll happen in about 3 or 4 weeks. After spending years and money to elect state, county, and municipal representatives, for us, the people, the voters, it is more than disappointing when their policies go ignored, when the will of the electorate is just ignored or thwarted by unelected administrators and bureaucrats. You all know what I'm talking about. So you all can go on YouTube and watch President Trump and Elon Musk interview with Hannity. It was aired Tuesday evening. Just go to YouTube. It's right there. You will be amazed at the AI innovations in medical, and I'm just telling you the things that's so exciting, and I'm probably going to be too old to enjoy them all. So I wish you all the very best of luck and health with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Okay, staff reports.
Okay, yeah, 2 items this evening. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, Police Department update. All SUVs ordered for FY25 have been received. They are currently in Orlando being fitted and will include, quote, "In God We Trust."
Yes.
Okay? And the golf course update is the irrigation work is expected to be completed in the next few weeks. The chain link for the driving range has been installed with the gate installation pending, and the post and nets are scheduled for installation in the very near future. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Wayne. City Attorney.
Okay, y'all have in front of you a legal opinion that I did that y'all requested having to do with statutory and local government regulation of electric bikes. It's not for discussion tonight, but I just wanted to point out that you've got it now. That's all.
Thank you very much. City Commission, any reports or announcements? Yeah.
So following up on that same topic, we talked about, we actually approved to execute the stencils for the bike, reading that legal opinion. The stencils for the e-bikes. I think there's a slight modification that can get that mitigated. We don't want to take a consensus vote tonight. It's just, like I said, it's on the left is what we talked about. That dividing line is what was the legal implications. If we reorient those icons, it's just more of a suggestion, is the way I interpret that legal opinion. So
Yes, the one on the right, I think, gets rid of all the legal hoops that you'd have to jump through with the one on the left.
we approved it to execute. It was just based on that legal opinion, or pending that legal opinion. So if we want to take a consensus vote to move out with that one on the right.
I'm okay with it.
I don't think so. I don't like it.
So we've got, we're still waiting for 2 other commissioners.
Is Commissioner Williams going to be here?
I have not heard from him.
Okay.
He said he's going to be late.
All right.
So do you want to just defer this until we have the
Yeah, we
rest
can
of the
bring that.
commission?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we do that? Just defer
Sure.
this to, okay. All right, sounds good.
That's all I
Anything
have.
from you?
Yeah, just a little something that you may have noticed, well, maybe not tonight because it was dark, but if you drive up and down Minuteman across in front of Cook Beach High School, they did a beautification of the front of the school. That was done mainly due to Cole Manis, our facilities manager. He did a fantastic job in recruiting Florida Yard to video and do a show on it, actually. So they have before and after. It'll be, I'm not sure exactly when it's going to air, maybe in a month or two, maybe in 6 months. It may never air, but we'll try to get the video from it and get it on our website if we can. But it's a great addition to the school, and it's kind of the kickoff of what we were talking about, with the parks and getting it beautified all the way up and down Minuteman Causeway. So kudos to Cole for instigating that. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I went to my first TPO meeting, or transportation meeting, since I'm now the I guess, the board member for our city. And I did voice my concerns about the speed bumps and the signs that will be in the middle of the roads. Whether or not they heard me, I don't know. But they were going to bring it back to FDOT and just let them know that, again, that we did not want the speed humps, and it would be it'd probably be a burden for our emergency services to have to worry about those as well. I also asked about beautification for the 520 corridor, maybe some new landscaping, larger trees and stuff like that. They said there is money in the budget for that, so I'm going to try to see what I can do to procure us some funding for that. I also asked about widening sidewalks between the old Wakula Motel and 520, because we do have a lot of foot traffic and e-bike rentals and scooter rentals and stuff like that. So I said we have 4 foot sidewalks in a lot of that area, and I really would like to see something at least 6 feet or wider because of that. So again, this is all stuff that may take years and years to come, but just want you guys to know that I'm doing what I can to try to help beautify the city and help get our sidewalks widened for safety purposes, and see what we can do about the speed bumps. And that's all I got. You got anything?
No, I'm good.
All right. Consent agenda.
Josh is here.
So now that you're here, do you want to just bring that up real quick?
So there's a legal opinion that Becky, the city attorney, had sent out following up on the stencils we talked about on the e-bike down Minuteman. There was a legal opinion that dividing line caused some potential issue or some legal liability, so I just reconfigured the stencils. There's just 3 of us here. We couldn't take a vote. We didn't have a quorum, so now that you 2 are back, I'm proposing just a slight modification.
The 3 people, that's it for.
We didn't vote on it.
Well, I wanted to have everybody here. I just want to comment on that since we're here, we're talking about it. I don't have a problem with it. Honestly, I've had multiple times where I've ridden a bike on a bike path, and people walking think that bikes shouldn't be on a bike path, and they would basically bow up and just try to get in your way. So I think this does kind of remind people that, hey, you are sharing this path with other people. Regardless, not everybody these days understand that we actually do share paths. So I don't have a problem with that. Does anybody else want to second that?
Well, you just, so what are we talking about cadence-wise? Every 100 feet, every 200 feet, at the beginning, at the end?
I think the proposal is every street. I don't know. Wasn't the quote for at the intersections?
We were going to place them approximately every 100 to 200 feet. So we can get advice from our consultant and, get you involved with that too, and come up with a solution to that.
So the other thing would be, if this is Minuteman, so are you going to have them all where you're reading them from east to west, or are you going to have some that you can read from west to east?
Probably go in both directions and meet in the middle.
I would go with, if you're gonna go every 100 feet, I'd put one way, one the other way.
Like the one dog's looking one way and the other dog's looking the other way.
Right.
Okay.
I guess my only question is this going to make it safer? Is this going to change anything, or is this just going to add more work?
I mean, I think it was a $2,000 do something, right? It's big issues. I think it's an awareness campaign. It was literally $2,000. It's already approved. It was just literally waiting on the legal feedback.
Tumulty, I know you got
Yeah,
some.
so we're going to make people aware that, that they're either riding a bike or walking. I mean, to me, it's just a waste to put it on there. It's pretty clear that it's a path. And I just think it's a waste of time. At this point, $2,000, I'm surprised that you would want to spend $2,000 to do that. If you have a majority vote, so be it. Another thing is, this is not on the agenda. I'm not sure why we're having a conversation about it, actually. It should either be on the agenda to discuss so that the public can speak, or not.
Well, it's commission reports, and this is
Well,
what
it's a
it is.
commission report, but this turns out to be an agenda item. We're talking about voting on it. We're talking about spending money on it. I think the public should be able to speak on it. We've got a lot of other things to talk about tonight. I think these folks want to talk about some other things, rather than whether we're going to stencil a bicycle or a person carrying a surfboard across the way. So that's all I've got to say. I'm voting no against it, and I'm done talking about it.
Thank you. Go ahead, Skip.
You know, I know that this isn't gonna decrease any liability for people that might get hit by a bicycle or somebody walk into a bicycle, either way. I mean, it is a sidewalk, and the rules for sidewalks are pretty much universal. But I do think that it's a reminder to people that there's going to be both on the sidewalk. So I can support it.
Okay, so do you want to put this off on a different day, or do you want to try to have a vote tonight?
Consensus vote tonight.
You can do
I
it,
know.
you can do it by consensus, and all you need is 3 head nods, and then it's not a formal vote.
I do,
We should do public comment if we're
that's what I was
going
going to say. I
vote on
agree
this.
with Commissioner Tumulty that if we're going to spend money on it and we're going to, if it would be appropriate as an agenda item and give people time to weigh it as part of the agenda, springing it on them for public comment may be
Yeah.
unfair.
I kind of agree with you guys. I'd like to put it on a night that's not as busy and something we could talk about. And
All right, well, we got some guidelines now that we're talking about every 100 feet, opposite wording, opposite directions, so that,
And something that might be cheaper and maybe less obtrusive is maybe on the signs that we have already up by the sidewalk, instead of doing this, maybe put a sign on the poles that are already there that says bicycles and pedestrians share sidewalks. Might be cheaper and less obtrusive. But anyways, so we'll pass on that for tonight. That way we can get to the main attraction. All right, consent agenda.
And we'll discuss it another time.
Yeah, we'll discuss this another, we're not going to vote on it tonight. We're discussing it another time.
Okay, this is the consent agenda. Item 1, approve the January 16 and February 6 commission meeting minutes. Staff representative, city clerk department recommendation approve. Item 2, approve the purchase from Kendall Signs for a double-sided LED illuminated monument sign for Sidney Fisher Park in the amount of $61,410. This is a budgeted item. Staff representative, Brad Calzo, Public Works, Water Rec Director, recommendation approve. Item 3 has been pulled. Item 4, accept the quitclaim deed provided by the Brevard County School Board for the lift station located on Freedom 7 school property. This was added 2/19/2025. Staff representative, Brad Calzo, Water Reclamation.
move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Items removed from the consent agenda.
Okay, that was item 3, approve the recommendation to promote Justin Grimes to Fire Chief for the City of Cocoa Beach per Chapter 2, Article 1, Section 2.6, Fire Department of the City of Cocoa Beach Code of Ordinances. The city manager is requesting the approval of the interim fire chief, Justin Grimes, to the permanent fire chief for the City of Cocoa Beach. The term shall begin February 15, 2025, upon approval of the commission. His performance has been stellar, and he has more than demonstrated his ability to be the permanent fire chief for the City of Cocoa Beach. Staff Representative Wayne Caragino, City Manager, recommendation approved.
Move to approve Justin Grimes as the new fire chief.
Second.
And just, you said, it says February 15th. Is that because of the pay cycle? It's retroactive back to the
Yes.
15th?
Yes.
So basically, the reason it says the 15th was because of the pay cycle.
Yeah, for pay period.
So it'll be effective tonight. It'll be retroactive back to the 15th.
Correct. Justin's here, too.
Yeah, Justin, you want to come up?
Thank you guys so much. I did not expect all that. But thank you everyone. For a guy that has a reputation for being long-winded, I'm going to keep it quick tonight. First off, I'd like to thank the commission for this awesome opportunity. I'd like to thank Wayne and the city staff for believing in me. I'd like to thank my wife and my family for supporting me. And I'd like to thank our previous fire chief, Ryan Duckworth, for his mentorship. And last but not least, all the men and women standing back there, I'd like to thank them. Cocoa Beach firefighters, it's an honor and a privilege to lead you. I'm just a small cog in the machine of the Cocoa Beach Fire Department. When it's your time and need, these are the men and women that are going to be there to help you. So thank you guys so much. And last, to the residents, I invite you to come see your fire station. Come see your firehouse, meet your firefighters. I want you to see the investment that we put into them. And I want you to see the investment they have into your community. And most of all, you're going to want to meet them on a good day. You don't want to meet them when you call 911 for the first time. So thank you guys. Yes, sir.
Just for people who don't know, how long have you been with the city of Cocoa Beach?
I started in the fire service in 2003, working for Brevard County, and I came to Cocoa Beach in 2006. And I feel like the next year you became we've been tied at the hip almost the entire time.
I knew Justin when, he had dirt on him and blood sometimes. But not anymore. Now he's the chief. He just rides around the little red truck, Shouts on his radio.
I'm more of a chance of getting a paper cut these days. I try to keep up with these guys and stay up there with them and keep my skills up. And it's so awesome to see from where we had the fire department to where it is now. It's next level. So again, I invite everyone, commission, residents, come see what they're capable of. They're going to blow you away. So thank you guys.
I just brought that up because this is a proof that you can work your way up, to a great job. And you got to prove yourself every step of the way, and Justin did that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Skip. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Justin. I'm really excited to have you step up like that. All right. There we go.
As that was on the consent agenda.
So we had a motion
do we
and a
need to
second.
close that?
Since it was on consent agenda, we don't need public comment.
No, it isn't on the consent anymore.
We moved
okay.
it.
We moved it.
All right, moved it. So is there any public comment on this item? All right, we'll vote on it. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 1.
Okay, this is Adopt Resolution 2025-01, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Cocoa Beach, Florida, providing legislative findings, amending Resolution Number 2023-06, a master resolution for fees by the removal of vacation rental fees and fines and false advertising fines from that resolution and placing those vacation rental fees and fines and false advertising fines into separate matrices incorporated into this resolution and providing for severability and an effective date. Staff Representative Wayne Caragino, City Manager, recommendation, adopt Resolution 2025-01, vacation rental fees.
Move to adopt Resolution 2025-01 as read.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Before we start, I want to say just some stuff and ask a couple questions to hopefully try to get a better idea of who wants what and hopefully to make this go a little smoother, a little faster. How many people, by raise of hands, are Cocoa Beach residents in here? Okay. How many are not Cocoa Beach residents? All right, so there's predominantly Cocoa Beach residents in here. How many, by raise of hands, are for this resolution? How many are for the raised fees?
Okay.
We will, but as you know it, how many are you for the raised fees?
Could I set the table for this first?
Yeah, actually, let's let Becky set the table here first.
Okay. All right. I think there is a general misunderstanding possibly with regard to what this resolution does. Right now, the City of Cocoa Beach only regulates vacation rentals there that are in the RS1 zoning district. That is a relatively small area of the city. It does not regulate anything having to do with condominiums or apartments, anything that is outside of the RS1 district. So tonight, what we're going to be addressing are the fees and the fines relating to the vacation rentals that happen to be located within RS1. And I think there has been a great deal of misunderstanding that somehow this would affect people who own vacation rentals in condos. And y'all get business tax receipts, but that's totally different from vacation rental registrations. So this does not affect the condos, it doesn't affect the vacation rentals that are in other parts of town. So I think I wanted to get that out there because I think there has generally been a misunderstanding with regard to this.
Okay. So the resolution basically raises the fees for registering, it raises the fees for fines, it raises the fees for inspections, as opposed to what we had before, which were relatively lower fees. So there's a lot of people here that don't want the fees raised because they have Airbnbs, and there's a lot of people that do want them raised because they want to try to create a bigger barrier to entry for starting Airbnbs. Now, I own a business as well, and honestly, if you're doing an Airbnb right and you're making some pretty good money on it, the fees that are charged is basically one good week of rentals or less. And it would create less competition for you because the small fries wouldn't really be inclined to get into the Airbnb market. So that being said, I think we probably have the fees on schedule we could put up there.
I think Wayne.
Yeah, Karen, can you get them up there? I have a couple of bullet points that I'd like to just throw out there too. The commission, at the November 8th, 2024 meeting, tasked the city manager with coming up with suggestions and possible solutions to this issue. And so a couple of bullet points here as we go through the actual increases. The proposed fees is to fund a comprehensive program to regulate short-term rental activity in the city, in the whole city. The ultimate program will address the whole city. Right now, it just addresses RS1. Our ordinance only addresses RS1, as Becky just mentioned. Approximately 67% of the 1,500 vacation rental units are not owned by residents of the city. In FY 2024, the city collected $100,306 in short-term rental registration fees. The difference between what is collected and what it costs to regulate is paid by the general fund, which is largely funded through property taxes. City taxpayers fund a significant portion of the cost to enforce city ordinances pertaining to short-term rentals. The proposed fee increase will shift the financial burden from residents to short-term rental owners. The city currently does not have the staff to effectively administer the short-term rental program. The city has one full-time code enforcement officer who enforces the ordinances for everything in the city. This single officer has a current caseload of over 100,000 cases. This amount is unmanageable. This fee structure is the first step in developing a comprehensive plan to address short-term rentals, as I was instructed to do. The next step will be modifications to the STR ordinances. Okay?
So this that we're voting on does not stipulate or say that we're going to be hiring new people at this point. This is just to vote on fees.
Correct.
So we're not adding more burden to the city, as in we're not adding more vehicles, more personnel, more insurance. At this point, we're just raising the fees, and we're not creating a bigger burden on the city by adding more employees.
Correct.
Okay? Any commission comments?
Well, what you just said is, what you just said and what the city manager responded to, Mayor, are a little, I'll just say off. Because, and Becky can attest to it, that the increase in fees, that money has to be spent and accounted for. And I've talked to city staff and the city attorney about how we account for those dollars that come in. Those dollars that come in have to be spent in enforcement of the regulations. And the anticipation is to hire at least another full-time code enforcement officer. Okay? So when you say we're just voting on the fees, but we're not adding any positions, the truth of my understanding of the matter is we will be adding at least one position. And Becky, correct me if I'm wrong, but because we may not have an obligation to the state to have a balance sheet at the end of the year that we have to turn in that says we collected this much money, we spent this much money, and it ends up zero. We will have to have that data, because anybody that wants to say a year from now, did you really have to spend all the money you raised? And we'd have to have that, or we could, there's potential for either a public records request or maybe even a lawsuit that would say we're collecting more money than we're spending on regulations. So we have to use any increases to regulate that. Now, the beauty of a resolution is that should we find out that everybody seems to be coming into compliance, a year from now, fees have been paid, the expenses aren't as high, and that balance sheet says, oh my goodness, we got in this amount of money, we're only spending this amount of money, then by resolution in one meeting, we can lower the fees. So there's potential it could go down next year.
So my main concern.
Well, wait, I'm not finished. I just wanted to listen to the rest of the murmuring. So this is basically, and I'll leave the stage on this note. This is basically a property rights issue from two sides. Property rights of the people that live and own in the single-family residential neighborhoods, and like a neighborhood atmosphere. Not to say that a neighbor wouldn't have a birthday party or an engagement party or something a couple times a year. And the other side is the property rights of the people that own these properties that are Airbnbs, that feel like their right is to make it, I didn't mean to say Airbnb, vacation rentals, and make money off their property, okay? But that doesn't always make it neighborly when you have these vacation rentals in a single-family residential neighborhood. I mean, the owners, the proprietors, the property managers, they're not there to keep track of it, you know, and there are a lot of violations, and we hear about it all the time. So I'm gonna support this, and we'll see how it goes in the future.
Okay, so what I was getting at is, we're obviously not going to get 100% compliance. It just never happens. So I just wanted to make sure that we're collecting the money first before we hire people. We're growing with it rather than growing and then trying to play catch up. Because you said right now we're taking money out of the general fund to play catch up for this at this point. My only concern with this whole thing is I don't like raising fees for people that are doing it properly. I have absolutely no qualms about raising the fines through the roof. If you're not going to do it right, you should be punished. It should be so bad that it's like you absolutely don't want to mess with Cocoa Beach. But to raise the initial fees and the renewal fees 350% is kind of like what the county did to us with the lifeguards. They raised our fees from $80,000 to $800,000. I don't want to be that guy. So I would like, and I know you guys already did a motion and a second for this, but for me, I'd like to be a little bit more reasonable on the registration and the renewals and just hit them hard on the fines. Any other commission comment?
Oh, yeah, I'll speak. I agree with you, Mayor, in that the issue isn't with the folks that have been following the rules and have registered and have come to the city to register their short-term rentals. It has to do with those that haven't come forward, and maybe I might suggest that we have a dual fee, one fee where, hey, if you come in within a certain period of time, it's going to be X amount of dollars, but after, I'm just throwing a date out, say after April 1st, 2025, the fees are going to this point, and, you know, to $2,000 for registration, for all new registrations, especially those that have been active for the last year, 2 years, 5 years. Everyone that has a short-term rental knows that that we require registration, but I'd like to hear a number of how many we have. Do we have that? Did you mention that number, City Commissioner, City Manager?
In total?
No, in the RS1, how many registrations, how many STRs are in R1?
Estimated
RS1, and how
300.
many have registered? 300
and 200 roughly have registered.
Can you repeat that?
300 and 200 have registered. Can I get, Dave, can you get up here and help me out with this one?
100 total, 200 registered?
No.
That's 1,500.
It's the regulation.
It may be.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the commission. Yes, sir.
Okay, this is our Director of Development Services, so.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming up. Approximately how many registrations do we have in the RS1 district?
City manager was correct. We have approximately 300 vacation rentals in the RS1, and approximately 200 of them are registered.
Oh. So you've identified only 300?
That's correct.
Okay. So the numbers of over 1,000 are obviously in other zones and probably mostly condos?
That would be correct. That would be citywide. And yes, the majority of those outside of RS1 are going to be townhouses and condos.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's the only question I had. I appreciate it, but you probably need to stay there because you'll get some other questions, I'm sure.
Any other commission comments on this?
We're going to have a discussion after public comment, correct?
You will, yeah, I just wanted to get it out there so that they know what we're thinking, so that maybe they don't have to talk as long to try to convince us of how they
Okay.
feel.
Yeah,
So, okay, I said I wasn't going to say anything else, but when you say that there's 200 registered and there's 100 that aren't registered, it sounds kind of, hard to believe that we got to hire one person to get the other 100 registered, okay? But out of those 200 that are registered, we get calls to code enforcement, to us as commissioners, emails to us as commissioners about a lot of regulation issues with those 200 that are registered. So it's not just a matter of being registered, it's a matter of being registered and following the rules and, riding herd on the people that come to your places to follow the rules. So that's where we need additional code enforcement, is to hold a lid on people that have short-term rentals, that their clients follow the rules. And that currently it happens in some places. I got to admit, I got one right across the canal from me. They turn over 2-3 times a week, and the proprietor has a no outside music rule. So I never hear them. I maybe might hear a little laugh or a scream from a kid jumping in the pool once in a while, but that's it. They're just like neighbors.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Becky.
Okay, one thing that y'all probably are not aware of, it is very cumbersome and time-intensive to get people to comply. And just as an example, a few months ago, we had a code enforcement case, and I came over and I was prosecuting this person who had a vacation rental and had not registered. And it was a 3-hour hearing. And there was a whole lot of work putting that together. And that was just one. So it's, staff time is enormous on doing this sort of thing, and it's all done kind of behind the scenes. Y'all aren't aware that we're doing this kind of work, but it takes up, a great deal of my time. It takes up a fantastic amount of time, and I suspect they, work overtime just, churning the paperwork to get all this stuff done. So it is a serious problem, and it's a financial problem because right now, from the paperwork I've seen and the financial information I've seen, just the general taxpayers of the city are paying for the staff and the costs all involved in this. It is not all absorbed and it's not compensated for in the low vacation rental fee that's charged now. So right now, it's essentially the homesteaders who are paying for this regulation, which under Florida law, if you are a regulated entity like this, you should be footing the bill for that regulation.
And you said that was for non-compliance.
That was for not registering.
Right, for non-compliance, which would be a fine.
Yes, for non-compliance, but you've got to get the people in order to get them to comply.
Right.
Because they were saying, we had pictures and all this sort of stuff of, they were obviously having a vacation rental. And it was over 2 different special magistrate hearings. They were denying it. Go figure.
Mayor, could I say one more thing?
Yes.
Please? Yeah, I just want to speak, you've got a lot of subject matter experts on the operations in the short-term rental industry out here, but I'm your subject matter expert on staffing and what we need to do. And I can tell you right now, we have one code enforcement officer that's handling all of these issues, plus all the other code enforcement issues that go on in the city. Blighted properties, high grass and weeds, signs, there's literally hundreds of issues that she could be dealing with, and she just does not have the time. And so we're not effectively getting anything done. I can tell you in Canaveral, they have 3 code enforcement officers. And we've got one who is just so overwhelmed. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you, Mayor.
Can I interject too?
Yeah.
There's also an issue of safety. When you go into a hotel, you expect that there's a sprinkler system, that it's safe to go into there. That type of emphasis is not being pursued by our staff because we just don't have the time. And there's a lot of safety issues in these properties that we're unaware of. So safety is a big factor and a big concern on my end.
Thank you. I agree. We definitely want to keep them safe. All right, let's go to some public comment here. We've got a lot. So guys, remember, you have 3 minutes at the most. If you hear somebody else say something that was the same thing, pretty much just basically say, I agree with so-and-so. We don't need to make it, basically, I want to know what you guys have to say and what you think, but we don't have to hear a whole story on it 50 times. All right, Jim Beatty.
Jim Vedic, 110 Melbourne Avenue, Indy Atlantic. I'm a short-term rental owner here. Which one? The other one. Do you need me to start over? Jim Vedic, 110 Melbourne Avenue, Indy Atlantic. I'm a short-term rental owner here. What is the purpose of the raising the prices of, for the renewal? I'm already opened it up and everything. I'm legit here. I followed all your guidelines. I pay all my property taxes, not homesteaded. Everything was legit. My neighbors have my phone numbers. I run a really nice short-term rental. I get the fees being raised up the fines being raised up for being non-compliant. I understand all that stuff, but some of the fee, it was really cheap when we opened, And I thought it was ridiculous. I'm like, oh, this is gonna have to change. I mean, I think the fire guy came out for $50. That was, and so it's up to this price now, I get it. But to go up for someone opening up from the 525 to 2,500 is ridiculous, and the 325 to 1,500, I understand what you're saying too about it's absorbed in the cost. But that, for a renewal, that's, and you're not getting the money from the condos, is that what I understand? This is just for the 500-ish, well,
300 total.
300 total, the 300 total in the residential area. So the 1,500, 1,200 others are not paying these fees? So you want to put this on the blunt of the people in the neighborhoods?
We aren't regulating them, so the expense isn't there.
The fines I get. If you're not running legit and you're not being compliant, that's great. If you guys want to come check out my place, that's fine too. I mean, I've invited my neighbors to come, they have my phone number, but I follow all the rules, but some of this just isn't, it just doesn't seem right. I guess that's all. And I was going to ask about the number of complaints that you have in the residential area daily. You were saying there was almost hundreds on your complaints for the short-term rentals?
I didn't give a number.
Oh.
It's not really a back and forth, just we want to hear your...
Is there a number that you follow through on, like a number per day that a violation served?
Like I said, it's not a back and forth. We don't get into the code enforcement or that's more of a code enforcement side, but...
Was most of this information just ballparked? Like when he was saying about all the constantly emails and the complaints, is that more trying to get the neighbors rolling?
I can tell you for myself, I might get one a week, maybe at the most, one a month. So I don't get a whole ton of emails about it. But that's time.
Okay. My house is on NP. If you guys want to check it out.
Margie Croto.
Yeah, much like Jim, so my husband and I have one house. It's a vacation rental. We've also been in the city since 2002. We're seasonal residents. Can you hear me? Oh, yeah, Margie Coteau.
You should address the commission because you're talking to us.
Sorry, okay.
It's okay. And it's 28 West Point Drive, by the way.
Right, so you clarified one thing tonight. I went through the numbers with a fine-tooth comb. I'm an engineer is what I do. Quite a lot of money would be collected if you were successfully able to impose these fees on all 1,500 that was the number that was stated in the documents. You'd collect about $3 million if you really actually were able to get even just the baseline fees, the registration, the inspection and so forth, close to $3 million. So I was really diving into the numbers trying to understand why $3 million. I get that you need additional people. To present a plan like this looks more like a 10-year plan after you've pulled in all these condos and other things, not a one-year plan to get that additional 100 units that aren't currently registered. I get that you need more people, don't have a problem with that. I agree with Jim, the fees were fairly modest. I don't get that those of us that have followed the rules, our vacation rental is a single-family home on Dorset Drive. We've followed all the rules, we've registered since 2021, bought the house, remodeled it, put a lot of sweat equity into it, doing the right things, phone numbers with all the neighbors, no complaints, full stop. So I don't get why those of us that are following the rules have no complaints, keep a really tight leash on the guests, put all the rules, they have to park in the driveway and only in the driveway, no noise, none of that, why our fees would go up 4x. That doesn't make any sense to me, just the baseline registration fees. I also object to the point about safety. We go through all the inspections. In fact, we just this year hardwired all our fire alarms because that was the requirement from the city. We did it, we got the inspection. We've done all the things that were required. We've got the little sirens on the sliding glass doors. Everything is the way it should be. Why our fees go up 3.5, 4 times. that doesn't make any sense. If you were able to collect all these penalties, you'd have far more than 3 million on 1,500 units. You'd have like 5 million, maybe even more, depending on the violations that you see. So this plan seems very excessive financially. I think it's geared towards managing the 1,500 units, certainly not the 300. So I get that you need 1 or 2 more people. Makes sense to me. I think you should go for that. But I don't see that this plan is overkill.
Thank you. Vanessa Lavitt? Is that right?
This one, right? Mr. Mayor, City Commissioner, I'm not going to stay long because I completely agree and I have the same statement. The previous 2 people who have come in here. I just wanted to state that it just feels exactly that the raising those fees 300% or more is quite fast, and what it's going to be next year and the year after. Fine, I'm complete for it. We are residents here in Cocoa Beach, been 15 years. Same thing, we sold everything we had to come live the life here after coming here 35 years. Remodeled, put sweat, everything. We have a family of 7. And we do short-term rental with our home when we travel because we have a family that's all over the world. And this helps us actually also for taxes, for family sickness that we may have in our family. It helps us, and we comply with everything that needs to be done. We don't make any issues. If there's a fine, actually, at first when we started, we weren't aware about the 8.4, and we get a fine, we paid it. Now we're aware, and that's how it is. I just think that we need a little bit more compassion and understanding in the neighborhood. We do live in a residential. I think one home is not like another home, depending where you live. But I guess if it has to be black and white, I'm definitely for making really hard fine, even completely stopping somebody from doing an Airbnb if they do not comply. But raising it that much, I don't think it will actually remove the problem. People will just keep on doing what they're doing. But if they are stopped from doing it, then we are winning over there. And it's completely unfair. I understand there's regulation. At one point, it is a business, if you want to put it this way, working out of your home. I'm a mother of 7, so I'm an interior architect. So I do a lot of things like that, and this helps our family. So consider it a business. We run also other business from there. Condos are businesses, everybody is business. So why would it be only those residential and not the other? I understand that they cannot be governed under certain rule, and forgive me for my accent and being very nervous over here. But basically all I had to say, and I think that might be costing too much money, but to maybe look also at the different kind of homes. I was more for the 8.4 when you have a home that has 8, 9 bedroom and a driveway of 10 inside your property. Asking guests that come, 8 guests that come to each share a car and they cannot ride their own car, I feel it unfair. I feel it's unfair. Everybody can ride their car. So it might take a lot of time, but I think not everybody should be looked at in the same way. But I'm, again, definitely for making big fees on people who do not focus on doing what's right. So
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Come on down, Art.
My name is Art Hitch. My family moved here about 20-some years ago from Ocean City, Maryland, where we owned a small family motel, an apartment house, and we also had some other rentals from townhouse to residential. We paid fees that we weren't happy about also. I am past president of the Ocean City, Maryland Hotel, Motel, Restaurant Association, and so I'm still in contact with a lot of my friends back there. The Airbnbs, their vacation rentals have had a major impact on the hotel, motel, restaurant business. And as I said a minute ago, we had to pay fees. I agree that these registration fees are probably a little too high, but you have to do something to regulate these and enforce these, because I live in a residential neighborhood. We have Airbnbs, and we have some good ones, and we have some nightmares, and we know some are not registered. I am for enforcement and hiring somebody to inspect and do this, and I think you probably need to adjust some of these fees, but you've got to do something, because Airbnbs, I'm sorry, they do not belong in a residential neighborhood. They belong on the other side of the highway. Thank you.
Judy,
I also was a licensed realtor, no, she said.
Judy Eberly?
Judy Eberly, Cocoa Beach. I am going to use my outside voice, so I hope everybody can hear me. Welcome, everybody that came here tonight. I am a 25-year resident of Cocoa Isles, homeowner, single home residence. I hear a lot of the good discussion. I agree with what's been said. I love that somebody did the numbers. And those numbers, I'm going to say it probably 3 or 4 times. We need more code enforcement. Use an in-house system so that you're not having to look for new people. I met him a couple days ago, and I love that there was somebody that was already from Brevard County, knows the issue, knows the area, knows that when we have hurricanes, knows when we have power outages, knows when, just knows the people. Hire within. Let's get some more people. I heard $300,000. Wow. And I would really like to see a pie chart. I understand that's available online, but that was pretty minuscule. The font was a little small. But if we were to see what amounts of money came in, have come in, are projected for our budget for the city of Cocoa Beach, where those dollars are going. I'm sure there are audits, and I appreciate that the staff is doing what they can. However, I just see that if one person is doing the job of an astounding number, that's violation. I understand that if there's a violation, it's a violation. And if we're not getting to condos, if the code enforcement is not getting to the numbers that he has as a workload, I think the city of Cocoa Beach is in violation. And I am going to ask that the next board meeting that we're all going to be at addresses that. Put it on the agenda. Where is the money going? Why are we not helping the city of Cocoa Beach by spending some of that revenue on that? One last thing I want to make sure is said is non-compliance. Why aren't the fines across the board? I understand condos and townhouses have their own association. Where are their accountability to fines? And if there's fines, yeah, it's a legal system. If they're out of compliance and we win the lawsuit, they should pay the lawyers, not the city of Cocoa Beach residents. Thank you very much.
Tam Liggett? Don't know if I said that right.
Hi, I'm Tam Liggett. I have been in Brevard for over 27. My kids went to Freedom 7, the other one, okay, Freedom 7 Elementary. I have a 10-unit Airbnb in Cocoa Beach in a residential area. And I also own Space Coast Vacation Rentals. And I have over 2,000 five-star reviews, 4.96 rating on Airbnb. So I've dealt with a lot of guests, and I'm saying the majority of guests are good people. They want to take care of homes. They want to be in the community. They want to spend their money here. They want to go to restaurants. They want to, rent equipment from A1A Beach Rentals. They want to go to Coconuts. They want to go on fishing charters. They want to come here to enjoy the area and have a good time, just like staying at a hotel. They have families. They'd rather be in a home rather than in a hotel without an opportunity to cook and enjoy a bathtub and a TV where they can lay out, and hang out on the couch. So there's an advantage to these Airbnbs. The fees, they're outrageous owning an Airbnb. You have to pay a lot in insurance for short-term rentals. It's not, everyone thinks that you're just making so much money. It's very expensive. There are channel fees. Booking.com charges 15% on, to put your rental on there. You pay someone like me a commission on top of those channel fees. Then there's payment processing fees to run through there, to program locks, to have safety measures in place. So the lock no longer works when they check out, and it doesn't start to work until they check in at 3. So your neighbor doesn't have to be concerned of that person coming in and out. There are so many fees, it's astronomical to the person who is owning the Airbnb. So then to impose additional fees on top of things is asking so much of the owner. So I just want you to be, aware of that at some point doing this is basically shutting down people from having that opportunity to own an Airbnb. And when these people who own Airbnbs are bringing business. So I just want to say that. Thank you for your time.
I just want to say that you guys don't have to worry about it.
Hayward Dems? Is it Howard or Hayward? Davis. Hayward Davis.
Thanks for allowing me the time to speak. I'm Hayward Davis. Live in the Cocoa Isles neighborhood. We've been here roughly 4.5, 5 years. So my point is this: we are not asking for enough money. To those who say we're charging fees too high, just listen to what some of me and my neighbors have had to endure over the last year. First of all, after one party at a short-term rental down the street from us, we picked up 16 beer bottles floating in the canal. After another party, a dock collapsed. 16 to 20 people fell in the canal. A bunch of minor injuries, bruises, scrapes, so on and so forth. One Sunday afternoon, my 8-year-old son and I were laying on the dock reading books when a bachelorette party started next door with heavy drinking, very inappropriate behavior for indoors in a strip club, not to mention outdoors during a Sunday afternoon. Additional lewd behavior, to include 2 weeks ago, another son of mine and I were kayaking down the canal to be greeted by a man with his penis out, peeing in the canal, with a whole bunch of girls going crazy all around him, and 2 women swimming in the Grand Canal right in the middle of the boat channel. And yes, I suspect alcohol was involved. Other neighbors of mine and I have had people trespassing on our docks in the middle of the night. I have personally stopped people traveling up and down the canal on high-speed watercraft in far excess of the speed limit, endangering our manatees and dolphins, and the list just keeps going on, all right? Look, I'm not a short-term rental hater. There's people I enjoy when they move in next door. I like talking to them. I like sharing with them tips on how to fish, what bait works best. I like telling about the local flora and fauna. But you guys got to recognize, you got to pay your fair share, all right? My point is this: we're not asking for a large enough annual registration fee. Some think this is subjective, so let's make it fact-based. 2 police officers' salaries and 1 cruiser was roughly $400,000. Spread across 300 rentals, that's $1,300 apiece, just for 2 cops and a cruiser. Spread across 1,600 rentals that comprise the entire city, you're talking $300. So I recommend that we have a period where we allow the rentals to report in, or we allow residents to report in unregistered rentals, maybe incentivize them somehow. So we update the city database. We hire additional contractors to then take that database and cross-correlate it with 911 records from the county and city police records so we can get a good, accurate representation of how many of our public resources are going to these short-term rentals. Once we know that, then we make an accurate increase in the cost of annual registration fees. All right? Thanks. That's all my time.
Michael Jolly. Said that right, I believe. Michelle Jolly?
Michael Jolly.
Then Michael, yeah.
Yo! Whoa! Got it. Doesn't want to let me go. Leave it on the floor. All right, quick question. You said that this only applies to the RS1 district. You didn't describe what that property area or streets does that cover? Can you answer that? But what area of the city? Is it a specific zone or is it specific homes in the city?
Specific zones. We have a
Okay, where are, so I'm asking where that RS1 zone is.
If, you should know the zoning of the property that you own. You can look it up on your.
So I don't,
on the
okay,
text.
excuse me for interrupting. So I don't know whether my condo is in that zone.
Well, yeah, trust me, your condo's not.
Okay.
There are no condos.
I understand you described that earlier, but we'll address that. I spoke to you, gentlemen and young ladies, was it a year and a half ago when you started raising fees, same fees, only having to do with homeowners or residential property. And now you're raising fees again for just them. It's going to be, as we say in the Florida crackers, it's a self-eating watermelon. It's progressive, it'll continue. But to address this issue tonight, a lot of people complain about condo owners, and this gentleman here addressed, he's not getting much money. You didn't address the property taxes paid by the rental owners. Property taxes, when you're here in Cocoa Beach, are significantly high. I pay $9,000 for a 1,000 square foot condominium. That is, I know that's not your issue, and I don't know what percentage you get of that. The other thing, property taxes, rental tourist taxes. All these rental places bring you in tourist taxes. And you are complaining about paying $80,000, so you must get a significant amount of that rental property tourist tax.
You don't get any of
Get
it.
it.
It's zero.
You don't get any?
Zero tourist tax.
You don't get what?
No tourist tax comes to the city.
Either way, well, I pay 15% of my rental fees for tourist taxes. I know the state gets a share, the county gets a share, and I'm sure you people get a share.
No, we don't.
County takes it.
Then why would you complain last year that you were, I don't even want to go any further in it. You must get some of that. Well, then you get sales tax from the visitors. Either way, another gentleman said, oh, $1,300 is nothing, that's a week's rent or something like that. An example of expenses in the past year on my condo complex, not my condo, but the complex, our insurance went 2 years ago from $200,000 to $400,000 last year to $600,000. Now it's $700,000. This is for a 100-unit complex. $700,000 for our tax. That is in the condo tax. I mean property insurance I pay, but just for the complex. So costs have significantly increased, and I'm sure operating costs have too. We also spent $2.8 million on structural repair last year. And that was a lot of local contractors that did the work. So you got to share their taxes or whatever. Thank you. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Orson. Come on down.
Well, I don't know how I'm going to follow that, but I'll try my best. So, Orson Tarver, 178 June Drive. Hold this up, sorry. So, thank you all for looking into this. I mean, I was on the planning board in 2018 when we first passed a lot of these regulations. Well, we didn't pass it, we recommended it be passed. I think, Tim, you might have voted on them back then. It's always just been an enforcement issue. We've never really had any, we have one code enforcement officer. That's been the case since 2018. I think at a period we were going to have a contractor, never got a contractor going. So really, I mean, it is just an enforcement issue, and you got to pay for it. Unfortunately, the issue has ballooned to a point to where you need funding. So these fees that the city manager, Wayne, has developed, just to hire staff. And the hard part is you're going to hire code enforcement officers. They have to work after hours. A lot of the problems that you hear complaining about, it's not Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, it's after hours, Sundays, weekends. And the problem is right now you're depending on the police officers to address these issues. Police officers should be running speed patrol, should be arresting bad guys. None of our police officers want to enforce Airbnb or deal with Airbnb complaints. So just like when you guys did beach rangers, it was the same discussion. We did beach rangers because we didn't want the cops running up and down the beach writing litter tickets. So, you get the right people doing the job, like code enforcement officers, which they deal with civil issues like this, and you're going to see the complaints go down, the compliance go up. Some of the bad actors probably will decide it's not worth it. And overall, it's just going to make a better experience for not only the Airbnb owners, but the residents. So I know this is just about raising the fees, but I hope very, very quickly there's a follow-up meeting where you guys discuss the staffing and the plan to make sure that you actually address the core problem, which is simply just enforcing the rules that are on the books today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Orson. Brian Costele?
I'm Brian Costley, 989 South Atlantic Avenue. I don't own any short-term rentals in Cocoa Beach. I may in the future, but I don't right now. But I have owned multiple short-term rentals up in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, and Maui, and Hawaii. And so I'm pretty well versed of the needs to run it as a proper business. So I personally have no issue with the short-term rentals in Cocoa Beach. Do I necessarily like the fact that I don't know all my numbers anymore? No, but it is what it is. People have the right to do what they want with their property. Now, but here's the thing. When I had my short-term rentals, I followed the rules mostly. The next person did, and the next person did. But then there's people who don't follow the rules, and there's plenty of them who don't follow the rules. They don't pay the fees, they don't have licenses, they are distant owners, absentee, who live in Maryland and Pennsylvania, and they just can't control what's going on. And so things run amok. And so there's a lot of cost to the city. One, to run to make sure everyone has their licenses, make sure the code enforcement, the extra police activity, et cetera. All those fees, whatever it costs the city, should be borne by the short-term rentals. It shouldn't be borne by someone like me who has no short-term rentals. It should be fully paid for by the short-term rental owners. It's a business. If you decide that the fees are too much, and you can't make a profit off your business, you shouldn't have the business. Not everybody can succeed at every single business. From the standpoint of the fees going up, if the fees go up to a certain point, because that's what it takes to fully fund the cost to the city for the short-term rentals, then the fees should go up to that point. I'm not telling you to rake anybody over the coals, but people complain about how bad the fees are. I can tell you my last house I rented out as a short-term rental in Maui, it cost me $15,000 in expenses and fees before I even got my rental license. I mean, it was just crazy. And so it's really not that much money here that people make it out to be. Like I said, it's business. If you can't run the business, you shouldn't have the business. And that's about it. And the one gentleman who didn't know what the RS1 zoning is basically all the areas in Cocoa Beach that's single-family resident, low density. And thank you.
Daniel Young.
Good evening, Council. My name is Daniel Young. I live on June Drive. I'd like to start with a personal story. I live adjacent to an STR, and for 4 years I've witnessed a consistent turnover of guests, sometimes every week, without a gap. Despite this, not once has their presence been disruptive or inconvenient. I hear all over town, and here tonight, a growing disdain for SDRs, signs posted telling tourists they are not welcome, and I wonder if this fee hike is just part of a broader effort to cut down on SDRs. Given the vocal opinions of many residents, it feels like more of a tactic than a necessity. We know tourism is crucial, with $2.95 billion spent in Brevard County by visitors last year. A reduction in STR availability would have a direct effect on our local businesses and economy. The council is proposing a fee of $2,800. This is almost 10 times higher than any other city in Florida. This is drastically out of line with other cities' fees. As Florida's most expensive county, St. John's uses a tiered approach and charges at most $600 for a 5+ bedroom unit. Florida's highest STR fee is in Esmeralda at $1,300, but this is a unique situation where the Keys, where cost of living and regulatory environment differ significantly from other parts of the state. There seems to be one of two things happening here. One, we really need the funds to offset tourism needs. Or two, the council is trying to restrict SDR opportunities. Either way, I fear that this could place us in violation of the Florida Vacation Rental Act, exposing us to liabilities. Despite many detached single unit units being the minority, many STR owners are residents of this city. I beg you not to harm your neighbors, your constituents who handpicked you to act in their best interest. Increased fees will lower the number of available STRs, hurting these businesses and the broader community. The real fight here is with the county to get our fair share of tourism funds, not imposing higher taxes on your neighbors. And make no mistake, a fee is a tax. Lastly, as a voter, I could not vote for someone who backed this proposal, a movement I hope our entire community will support. Thank you for your consideration.
I think it says Marcus Gruntham? Brent.
Oh, the mic. Hey, all right. Thank you for listening. I have 3 units that are condos. I didn't know this just applied to RS1, except the code enforcement new person is going to apply to condos. I have 3 condos that are Airbnbs, and we've been doing it for a little over 3 years now. My wife's been managing them. It's been great. We've had probably 400 reviews, and it's going well. And it's in a condo complex, so I talked to all the neighbors, and kind of mixed, but generally positive appeal of it. As far as the funds go, the 400% increase, like he said, I feel like it's just to get around the fact that you can't ban short-term rentals as per state. but you are just trying to financially prevent them from being done. So you're just kind of like looping around that state law. Maybe that's why, or maybe that's why, or maybe it's just that you want to, tax your neighbors. Like, it's a huge increase, and then it's only on RS1, which is weird. Like, I have a condo, so this apparently doesn't affect me, but I still had to get the, I had to pay to register, and I'm gonna have to pay for a renewal, and I had to get the same, not a sprinkler system, but the wired-in smoke detectors, emergency lights, and a tagged fire extinguisher that I have to do every year. So if I have to do all of those safety things, I'm still doing basically the same thing. So I'm still paying money in. Why do I have to, eventually it's gonna go up for me too. If it goes up for RS1, it'll go up for condos later. So that's also weird. Anyways, that's it. I also wanted to say, my units are cheaper. They're like $200K. So I don't make as much as the people with the $1 million houses, and it's gonna disproportionately affect me when you jack up the rates. So I do like a tiered system. That would be something to consider. That would be nice as well. Anyways, thank you for your time.
Elise Johnson?
Good evening. My name's Elise Johnson. I'm a rental manager in the city, overseeing about 15 properties. The majority of them are condos, but I do have several single-family homes. All of my rentals are fully licensed and inspected, and I take pride in ensuring they meet all of the regulations and that my guests have a safe place to stay while visiting Cocoa Beach. I'm here tonight to oppose the proposed license fee increase. You've heard from many tonight that these fees are unreasonable, how they risk damaging our tourism economy, and how the effectiveness in solving issues like noise and parking remains unproven. I agree with all of those rebuttals, but I want to offer a personal perspective from the owners I represent. Many of them have owned their properties in Cocoa Beach for years, decades even. These aren't faceless investors. These are people who have made this city their vacation home for themselves, their children, their grandchildren. They have been a part of this community for years and hope to be a part of it for years to come. For a long time, these owners have never rented out their homes. It wasn't until recently that they have turned to rentals to offset increasing costs of ownership, primarily rising insurance premiums and taxes. Most of these owners are on fixed incomes. They're not renting to get rich, they're renting just to hold on to their homes that mean so much to them and their families. The increased fees will force them to choose between keeping a cherished piece of their legacy or letting it go. The proposal targets everyone, not just the bad apples currently circumventing existing regulations. The properties and owners I represent are compliant. They follow the requirements, they meet the requirements, they have a local contact, and their properties are safe. They have the right to use their property as they wish without being penalized. Cocoa Beach is a special place because it balances tourism and community. My owners and I are part of that. I ask you to reject these excessive fees and work with us on a fair, targeted solution that addresses the real issues without punishing those who call this city home, whether full-time or for a few precious weeks of the year. Thank you.
Jill Forbes.
Good evening. I'm Jill Forbes from 945 South Atlantic. And for the last 5 months, I've been working with the city since I presented the agenda item September 4th on a large quantity of STRs that were advertising for over the 8 maximum. I can tell you in working with the city, I've also identified a lot of properties in RS1 that are not registered and not filing their BTR, the business tax receipt. In working with the city, they literally have one person trying to do code enforcement for the buildings that are going on in the property, violate other violations besides STRs. It takes more than just this person to do it. I feel bad some days because there's repeat offenders that for months are still advertising, or on weekends, some of the people, when code enforcement isn't here, the STR raises the amount over 8 on a Friday night. And so it has booking on the website for 3 days until Monday morning, and then they lower it back down to 8. So there's a lot of shenanigans going on. I call it whack-a-mole because some of them just pay the fine and keep up the bad behavior. And it's labor intensive, I can tell you that, from working with a meeting several times with the people in code enforcement in the city. So I'm hoping that the fines and the fees get approved today, and that we have a program. If STRs are going to be in the city on a permanent basis, then we need somebody to support that program on its own. I mean, we have 300 properties today in RS1. I believe it's much higher than that. I just sent over 3 links the other day of properties that were not registered. So, and that's just the tip of the iceberg with some of the other issues that are going on in the STRs. Thank you.
Missy Barley.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and my fellow citizens. My name is Missy Barley, and my address is 421 South Brevard Avenue. Airbnb's been around for 17 years, and it has enhanced some lives, and it's been a detriment to others. We currently have 12,000 residents, and just since July 1st of 2024, 460 BTRs have been issued. Rentalscape is what the city is using as a third-party format platform to find out who's listing and who's not. So far, they've found 316 unregistered homes. There's other third-party platforms out there. One of them is called Rabu. I just pulled that up before the meeting started. They say that every year there's been a growth in Cocoa Beach of 72%. According to Airbnb Me, that's another format, total available listings are 1,909. Another format's called AirBTICS. They say that there's 909 listings, and that our town, they actually put this in their narrative, our town is lenient, and the local government is not strictly enforcing short-term rental regulations on the average, and there's a 70% occupancy rate. I have a feeling there's a lot of Airbnbs out there that aren't being discovered, and kudos to you, Jill, for doing your due diligence and finding them. While on the one hand, I don't want government to say what I can and cannot do with my home, I feel that it has gotten out of hand. I would liken to what I've heard tonight as a parent who didn't know how to parent and let their kid run amok. That was my mom. She was a single parent, and I did whatever I wanted when I wanted until she got wiser and wanted to crack down. And I bucked that. I'm like, well, I've been getting away with this for so long. She's like, no, these are the new rules. And I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm going to go surf and keep being naughty. And I did for quite a while, too. Too many of the area homeowners and their representatives do not care about our town. I'm also a realtor. While we may not be able to stop vacation rentals, we can certainly make it more advantageous for our city and her citizens. It seems a whole lot of people would rather ask for forgiveness rather than permission. I would like to see stricter fines. I've managed several Airbnbs in the past, and I always kept my owners and their neighbors in mind. Like, I went and handed out business cards, said, if you see anything, please say something. All of my clients, including myself, did it out of necessity to live in an increasingly more expensive neighborhood. In closing, I'd just like to say that, thank you very much. I wrote too much. I wrote too many notes.
I can't read your last name very well, but it looks like Denise Sturman?
Good evening, Council. My name's Denise Sturman. I live at 833 Catalina, Cocoa Isles Boulevard. Happen to be neighbor of the gentleman who came up here earlier with the horrific story of short-term rentals. We have 4 on our canal, 3 are awesome, 1 is not. So I came tonight mostly to listen because I really didn't understand what the ruling was, so it's been super helpful tonight, and I appreciate these forums. Like Missy mentioned, I struggle with I want government to tell me what I can do with my property, what I can't. The residential issue, the zoning issue, we're a single-family home. I thought when we bought, we're in a residential area, not a commercial area, which makes me think there's not business in my neighborhood. And so I struggle with that, trying to understand what's fair and what's not. I had a friend who taught swim lessons out of her home in Cocoa Beach, and I know she was harassed for running a business out of her home because there were too many cars parked in front. So I struggle to understand why that business owner was not allowed to run her business, but we can rent. So I really am sitting in a gray space and trying to listen and understand. I also came tonight to understand, you talked in the beginning about these fees and fines. Oh, I'm starting to shake now. If they were to deter more rentals, if that's I think that maybe we need to be clear on what that is. If it's to deter, then it does feel punitive. If it's to fund code enforcement, that's fantastic. I'm in full support of that. So I guess I didn't know if the council's clear on that. It sounds like there's Florida legislation that says we cannot regulate how many VRBOs or short-term rentals are in a community. It was my understanding in some other states, they can have percentages in a city. You can only have, 3% of rentals. So I don't know what the laws are on that, but I would encourage, if you can give residents like me clarity on that, that might help us understand how we structure this and if we're going to do fees and fines to deter additional rentals or if we're going to do it to fund something. So I don't really, I guess my first vote is, raise the fees to be able to fund this, definitely. I don't want to be incurred in that as a resident. But I love to stay in VRBO, so I kind of sit in the middle on this. So I just wanted to thank you for your time and for helping educate all of us in the community.
Thank you. You did good. John Newton.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Councilman. My name is John Newton. I have a new home at 3360 South Atlantic Avenue. I'm now a Cocoa Beach resident. I've lived in Brevard County since 1970. Graduated from Satellite High School, attended the University of Florida, served in the military, and was bank president of Sunbank here 30 years ago. Loaned money for a lot of the buildings commercially here and at the port. I was Sunbank branch manager of the year because I loaned to build the port turning basin, the west turning basin. Did that as a bond issue. Been away for a long time, did a lot of other things, but in the last couple years I've been trying to figure out how to retire. Sold a big building and decided to try a couple of vacation rentals. And I've been doing that for about 1.5 years, and more recently bought a house here in Cocoa Beach to do that with. Not the one I'm living in, but as many people said, there are a lot of tough challenges, a lot of costs to be part of this business. It's very labor intensive, very hands-on. If a person's trying to do it by living in another state, they're making a big mistake. And I think that's what's led to a lot of these problems that people have with neighbors, because no one's local paying attention to what the hell's going on in the house that they're renting. And I think that's wrong. I have made a lot of notes, but most of what I said has already been covered. But I'm going to talk about a few points that I think is important. My recommendation for you as a city is to make the priority the enforcement. not the fine, not the fees. Fees are not a deterrent. Fines are a deterrent. If you want good performance and good attitude and good conduct from your neighbors, fine the hell out of them. Make it important, make it meaningful, make it painful so the owners get smart and do what I've done. I have agreements in my leases that say nothing after 10 o'clock outside, no sound determined by the neighbors. No party environments are ever going to be occupying one of my houses. There are families, pure and simple. And here's another thing I did. Tonight I was thinking about this meeting and I went and had dinner with my girlfriend over at Taco City, and I started thinking about the economic impact of these visitors. The people that stay in my house typically stay a week at a time, and they eat out almost every single night with their 8 people. Assume that's $20 a head. Do the math. That's $1,000 a week from that 1 week's occupant. If there are 1,500 of these in Cocoa Beach, do the math. I wrote in about 10 minutes 50 Cocoa Beach restaurants that I know about that are probably thriving, and there are 50 because there are this many people coming here that aren't staying in hotels, because I guarantee you stay in a hotel, you eat at the hotel. I've been a business traveler for most of my life. I know that's the case. But we need to hammer the fines, the fines, the fines.
This is the last comment. Ashley O'Brien.
Good evening. I wasn't going to say anything, but I didn't hear anyone else mention this, so I was going to bring it up. Choosing to rent a property as a landlord, as a short-term rental, and incur all of these costs and fees and fines and taxes is a choice. You always have the option of renting it long-term. You can do that. I personally own a property and I rent it long-term, and I enjoy that. The long-term rental also contributes significantly to our community, as I do as a resident. I go to Tiny Turtle and the 4th Street Bistro and Whisk and Grind, and I have beers at Jonathan's. I participate in my community as well, as does my long-term renters. So please make sure that you're considering that these fees are would pay for code enforcement, which is important, and that they have a choice. They don't have to incur these fines unless they choose to do a short-term rental. Okay, thank you.
All right, public comment is now closed. Commission comments. Andy?
I'll start. So, wanted to thank everybody that's here and everybody that emailed us. I think this week we got a number of really good and insightful from, pro and con on the topic. So thank you guys for the inputs you've given. I thought a lot of them were really thoughtful, right? We got a lot less of the just copy paste and actually folks going through and really kind of weighing in on pros and cons, even just within the email. So I appreciate that. And I think that's we'll probably hear all the commissioners say something similar, but we've got, my wife and I, some folks that are really dear to us, who are good friends here in the community that have an STR. And so they're the folks that I really think about when I think about this topic. He's stationed at the Pentagon, so he's not here because he doesn't want to be here. He's not here because he can't be here. And so when I think about STRs, I don't put it in the context so much of a business, but I think about the folks who are near and dear to us, who own these properties and have made the decision to make them an STR. So my comments are in that context. That I'm thinking about those folks, and I have a great friend who came and gave some very thoughtful comments as well. But I think for me, the matter comes down to we have right now a fee schedule that has the 300 so homes paying in about and this is rough math, not exact values, but about $237,000 to the city. And based on what we've looked at and the cost to the city, and again, because as Commissioner Williams noted, we can't make money off of this, but these are costs to the city. The estimated costs are something closer to $723,000, right? And so that means residents are carrying the cost of that difference, is about $486,000. Now, are we exactly where we need to be on the fee schedule? Well, there's some learning that needs to be done, and we have a number of unregistered. But for me, and again, I say this in the context of knowing that this impacts folks I care dearly about, it is unfair for residents to carry $486,000 worth of payments for businesses that they don't benefit from. That's just not fair.
You know, we've heard a lot about, you know, fine them. But then on the other side of the coin, we hear, we don't have a code enforcement officer to go out and create these fines. Okay? So we got to fund that code enforcement officer on top of what Josh has said, that it's costing all the regular taxpayers close to $500,000 a year to fund the people that are in business. So I stand behind my support of it, and I know I got some murmuring, but we have to do the books. We have to keep records, and if everybody starts coming into compliance and there's a lot less code enforcement work being required and a lot less lawyer time being required and staff time and police time looking into all this, and we can't account for the money that we're spending, then the fines go down. So I got some flack about that earlier, but we need to get this money in so that we can get that other code enforcement officer and cover the additional costs of the city. And I'll stand there.
Who's next? You want to go? Tim?
Yeah, I'll go. Mr. Dickey, City Manager, could I have Mr. Dickey speak again, answer some questions for me?
Sure.
Thank you. So there's been some misinformation and non-information. RS1 is residential, basically single-family residences. And that's what these fees are surrounding. We also have STRs in other zones. Do we have a plan for those zones? Are those zones being charged registration fees, application fees, BTRs, and those fees?
Yeah, thank you. Currently, only STRs in the RS1 district are required to register. So that's roughly 300. Now, those citywide, whether you're in the RS1 or any zoning district, you're required to have a business tax receipt. So citywide BTRs, just RS1 registration.
Can I ask a question with that?
Why is?
I'm probably going to ask that question, but
Go
go ahead.
Why is that?
Well, a business tax receipt is required if you're going to run a business in the city. So that really isn't dependent on what zoning district you're in. If you're running a business, you have to have a BTR. So every business in the city, restaurants, bars, dry cleaners, attorneys, if you run a business in the city, you have to have a BTR. Therefore, that's why citywide STRs are required to get a business tax receipt. Registrations are limited to RS1. Now, I wasn't here when that ordinance was put into effect, so maybe Becky could speak to that on why it was limited to RS1 at the time. I don't know.
Okay, it's my recollection that the commission believed that that was the most serious problem area. And that's what they wanted to do, to start off. And I think there was going to be some sort of consideration going forward at some point, maybe, to have the coverage be expanded. But to try to do the entire city would have just really been, with the staffing that we have, it would have been impossible. So, and the business tax receipts are completely different from the regulatory registration. Under Florida law, one is a tax and the other is a regulatory fee. Never the twain shall meet. They're just different. And it is confusing. But everybody in the city who has a BTR everybody in the city who has a business has to have a BTR. But only, the way it was written, only the people in the RS1 have to get the vacation rental registration.
I'd like to add too that the BTR fees that are collected from the short-term rental properties are not used to fund code enforcement officers. That's an important point.
And they should not be, because those are taxes. So, and there are technical legal reasons for that, because if you start using your tax power for regulatory purposes, you can lose your tax power. There's case law on that. So we have to keep them separate.
Okay, thank you. Something that doesn't, I'm trying to make an analogy of running a business, a couple analogies, I guess. Running a business out of your home, do you want a restaurant next door to you in a RS1 district? We can't do that. You can't have a FedEx facility there, or a drop-off, I don't believe either, or a bar, or any other business, kayak rental, or anything like that in a single-family residential zone. Short-term rental is basically a hotel room. And, it could be 2 days, could be 1 day, could be a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month, I don't know. But, for these short-term rentals, somebody might want it for a month. But in essence, it's a hotel room, and it's, again, short-term, as it's stated. So that in itself is a business. So we've got some businesses that are following rules and some aren't. Businesses get pilfered on a regular basis. Shoplifting. Who pays for the shoplifting? Everyone else that buys products at that business. No one pays for shoplifting for that business that doesn't buy anything from that business. You follow that? So the people that should pay for the illegal use of STRs or non-registration should be those that are the STRs, not the rest of the public. Just want to make those statements. That's where my head is. Another thing that hasn't been brought up is that the short-term rentals don't actually pay individually for bed tax. It was brought up earlier about the TDC, that the TDC charges a bed tax to hotels. Hotels pay its bed tax, it goes to TDC. TDC is not Cocoa Beach. Cocoa Beach gets no money from TDC unless we work something out with them or with parks or some other thing like that, and we've got some issues there. But as it turns out, Airbnb and that consortium pays our local TDC $1 million a year in bed taxes. Separate, totally separate issue. So the folks that have the STRs don't see that on a line item, but in fact they are paying that through the fees they pay Airbnb. So they are actually paying that to the TDC, and as gentleman mentioned, or thinks that we're getting money from the TDC, we do not get any money from TDC or bed tax. That needs to change. So, gets to the crux of this whole issue is the fees, whether it's registration, annual fees and all, and fines. Folks that are paying, that are doing the right thing, we want to try to keep those particular fees down. So they've already paid, you've already registered, you should be locked in, almost grandfathered into a certain level. Those that aren't should have a new fee, and I'm going to suggest an application fee of $1,000 up until a certain time, and after that, then it goes to $2,500. The annual renewal, I like that at $1,500, but the fines need to stay where they are. Is there a way to, do I have concurrence with this is just the sheet you look at. You have that on your, or you don't have it on your. All right.
But yes, I looked at it before.
So I'm suggesting that the vacation rental application registration fee, can we do something like that? Where we have a time frame where it's a certain level, and if the short-term rentals decide not to register their rentals with Cocoa Beach, then they're going to get hit. The folks that are already here, they're doing the right thing, as I'm sure all of you are, or else you wouldn't be here. Because why would you be here if you're not already paying and registered, because you're outing yourselves by being here, right? So is that something we can do?
Is that duplicative of the late fee already, or is that different in your thought?
It's different in my thought. I think it's an exorbitant fee to charge a substantial application fee if they're willing to come in.
Yeah.
Within the next month or 60 days or whatever we can legally, the time frame should be. I don't know what that is or whatever the commission determines that may be. But I think we've got enough publicity now on this subject that everybody that has a short-term rental knows what's going on. And, it's their own fault at this point.
I could draft something like that. We've had this regulation, I believe, for 6 years, so probably they've been operating under the radar for 6 years.
So, Commissioner Tumulty, if you were going to want to make a change like that at this meeting, we have a motion on the table to
Right,
pass
this would
it
be an
as a-
addendum.
It would be an amendment,
Yeah,
Right.
okay?
I understand
So
that.
if
And
you
I
make your
just
amendment
want to
and-
have a discussion about that, of where that would be.
Well, if you
and kinda
make
get
an
a number.
amendment and you get a second, then we can have a discussion.
Yeah, good point. All right. So, I'd like to make an amendment to the Exhibit A, which is all the fees, they've been redlined, to change the vacation rental application registration fee to $1,000. And for a 60-day period. And after that 60-day period, it goes up to $2,500.
Are you saying 60 days from now?
Yes.
Or 60 days from when they?
60 days from now.
So what about the people that come in 6 months from now and they want to start it? Then they got to pay the 25?
If they can, good point. If they can prove that they're just opening an Airbnb, hey.
Now we're having discussion without a second.
Yeah, we are. Good point.
I will second that so that we can discuss this, but I think we want to do some
We can make
amendments to
adjustments
it.
to it, absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking is an $1,000 application fee if they volunteer to come in. If we find that they're in violation, then it's then that'd be a fine. We can't charge that, it'd be two different.
Just do a
different things,
fine.
right?
Well,
If they don't come in, they get fined.
you could have a forgiveness period. I have seen that on some ordinances to try to get those extra 100 ones to come out of the dark and register.
This would save their time as well.
Yeah, I
idea
have
that-
seen that done on other things.
Can I make a suggestion or a possible?
We're in discussion.
I say, from now on, if you have a short-term rental, within 30 days, you come in and register, or you get the fine, and you have to pay a $1,000 registration fee. I think anybody starting a new Airbnb, like you said, 30 days, if they don't register within 30 days, they get a $2,500 fine, and they have to pay the registration fee. I think I would like to see renewals at around 800. That's what I'd like to see. New registrations 1,000, renewals 800, and you have a 30-day grace period. Other than that, it goes to the 2,500 fine.
May I have a comment? So, the part about, there was a little bit of touched on discussion, that say $1,000 for 60 days, get people to come into compliance, then it goes to 2,500. And the mayor said, well, what about the new Airbnbers? Why are they gonna have to pay $2,500? They should only have to pay $1,000. Well, it could be somebody that's been an Airbnb under the radar for, after the 60-day period, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna get caught, I'll go pay the $1,000. So that's not gonna work. Plus, we need the funding coming in to fund the city staff that we're currently paying for. So let's go ahead and pass it as is. And as I've said, I think twice, that when we do the rack and stack, we can make adjustments. This is a resolution. It can be changed in one meeting. Okay?
I'd like to hear from Jeremy.
Yeah, no, I like the user fee model. It makes perfect sense. We're throwing out numbers somewhat arbitrarily with no real tie to what the cost side is, right? We're cutting costs here, different programs. But the ultimate goal is to get user fees to fund code enforcement right away. So I'm a fan of leaving it as is. I support leaving it as is and know that we have the flexibility to adjust it. Legally, we have to tie off the cost side with the fee side. So we can defend that. It's easy enough to change later as needed, but I support this.
So for me, like I said, I can't support charging upstanding people $2,500 to register their business. But it's absorbent to me. But I can totally stand behind the fines and realistic fees. So I can't vote for it as that. I want the fines, but I can't do it to the people that are doing it right.
So yeah, I think we get ourselves, as Commissioner Hutcherson mentioned, I think we get ourselves in trouble if we start changing things that are based on calculations. We've got to be careful. And I think this, to Commissioner Williams' point as well, I agree with you. This is not meant to be, or at least my rationale is not meant to be an attack on somebody, right? It is meant to levy costs where the costs are. And my understanding is that these were built around utilization of those costs as they come in and are levied on the city. Changing these, I think we can as we learn more, or if we learn more that would drive us to change them. But if these are built on our understanding of what we're spending as a city, we need to be careful, shooting from the hip on those changes, even if they sound salient. And I'm not saying they don't. I think where you guys are thinking seems reasonable. I just would be careful on changing the numbers without having actual facts.
I'd like to call a question and vote on the amended motion in the motion.
Say again?
I said I'd like to call the question and vote on the amended motion and then the main motion.
So the amended motion would be Tim's motion?
Yep.
$1,000 for 60 days.
Not with the 60 days or with what I was saying, the 1,000 and then the 25?
With my motion of, we said
1,000 for 60
1,000
days.
and 1,500. Do we say 1,000, 1,500?
Karen, what did you record when he made the motion that got seconded?
Vacation rental application, $1,000 for 60 days. After it goes up to 2,500, and then that's the motion.
That was the motion.
Okay.
So 2,500 is going to go down to 1,000 for 60 days. That's the amended.
For the first 60 days.
That's right.
To get folks to come in that aren't registered for the first
Day
60 days.
61, it goes to this schedule.
Yes,
Even for the new people?
yes.
I'm okay if we would have dated that 6 years ago.
All right, how about this?
No.
No, I just want to know something real quick.
It's got to be voted.
What about the renewal? What's the renewal price?
1,500.
It's still 1,500.
That's too much.
Like I said,
Okay, all right.
We can't profit from this. If we go Jimmy with the revenue side, it's going to not
Okay,
fund the code enforcement.
All in
Model's
favor, all in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
All right, we'll vote on the original motion now. All in favor?
Is there any more discussion on this original motion, or are we done with that
done
discussion?
with it.
And the original
I called
motion
the
is,
question.
If it,
you
uh,
move
Well,
to
you called the
approve.
amendment of.
If it
I called
fails,
that question to vote on the amendment and the main motion.
if this fails, then we can discuss again and
Can
renegotiate.
we have the main motion again, just to be
The
clear?
main motion is this.
As written.
As written.
As
Okay.
written.
All right, all in favor of the as written?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. All right, motion passes 4-1. Well, the people have spoken, the commission has voted, and I think we can call that a wrap.